Lists are another really common pattern, not just on mobile devices, but also on regular websites. Ionic takes care of building lists that scroll smoothly. Now, they're fundamental to the way that you implement other design patterns. So when we learn how to do things like cards and forms, you're going to learn that they're really just lists with some additional classes. Now, one thing that's confusing about looking at the Ionic website is that when you go to the CSS section and you see, for example, the documentation on list, you see here that you can code it as either a UL with a class of list and an LI with a class of list item. And then if you scroll down, you're going to see that you can do the same thing with divs. And that's great. But whenever you look at examples that were written with JavaScript and AngularJS sort of patterns, so that's usually in the JavaScript section, you'll see that there's also a area called lists here. And in here, instead, we're using ion list and ion item. Now, they're pretty much the same thing, except that ion list and ion item is going to give you a few more abilities than just the CSS styles. So when you see the examples in the CSS page, just remember that this div class list is the same thing as using an ion list, and the div with a class of item is going to be the same thing as using the ion item tag. And if you add some classes to this ion item, like the ones that you see in the CSS section, then they'll work just fine. So let's go ahead and take a look at adding some of these into our application. And what I'm going to do is right underneath the tabs, I'm going to add an ion content section. And as you see in the example on the website, you can use ULs with a class of list if you want to. And inside those, you can have list items with a class of items. And then you can type in something like item and then a number here. And you see that it styles them as the traditional mobile list. So you don't have to create these yourselves. It gives you those patterns pretty well. Now, you can also, if you want to, use divs. And Ionic is going to do a great job of handling scrolling whenever you use these. So in order to show you a list scrolling, I need to type in a really big list. So since you probably don't want to see me typing this, I'm going to be using a little macro language. Let me go ahead and delete this from a plugin that I installed here called Emmet. So let me just type it in and you'll see what it does. UL list and then li item, and then in curly braces, I'm going to put in item and then number here. And then I'll say times 30. So what this is doing, it's going to create an UL with a class of list. And then inside that, I'm going to create an LI with a class of item. And then in that LI, I'm going to add some text, right, that says item and then some sort of number. And I'm going to do that 30 times. So these two $signs here will become a number. So let me go ahead and expand that. And there it is. So when I save this, you can see this really long list. And if I click and drag, you can see it scroll super smoothly. So that is one of the things that Ionic does for you. I'm going to undo so you can see the pattern again. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about this macro language, occasionally you see me using this in some of my courses. And it's just to do things a little bit quicker. But I wrote a course on this called Coding Faster with Emmet. So I'm going to show you that you can also use divs if you want to. And the way that you do divs in Emmet, you don't have to put in the word div here. It's sort of assumed that when you say .list, you mean a div with a class of list. And then I'm going to do, let's go ahead and just kind of set this up from scratch. I'm going to do an anchor tag. And inside the anchor tag, I'll do an href with just a $sign in it. So this is an anchor tag with an href attribute. And the href attribute has the $sign, which means just don't go anywhere. You're linking to essentially nothing, but still maintaining the style of the link. And then I'll give that a class of item. So that anchor tag, just like our li, is going to have a class of item. And then just like before, I will put in an item text in there that is a number. And I'm going to do that 30 times. So when I expand this, you'll see that if I save it, it's going to look pretty much like before, except that now these are going to be clickable. So by putting links inside the list, we have made these entire items clickable. And this is just a little bit better because if we add list items and then we put links inside the list items. This way, the entire line becomes clickable. So that's one way of doing this. Now you can also create a divider somewhere in your list. If you just make one of these diffs, so I'll modify this anchor tag to be just a regular div because I don't really need a divider to be clickable. And I'll just call this headline 1. And what you want to do is you want to give it a class of item and then item divider. And when you save this, you can see that this headline 1 is not clickable. And it is just a way of you dividing different sections of your layout. Now you can also, of course, add an icon to the list by using an I tag. So if I come up here and I want to add an icon, it's a little bit easier if I bring these down like this. And I'm going to add an icon just like with any other element. I'll put them in an I class and I'll do a class of icon and then ion email. That's going to give me an email icon. And I'll modify this text here to say check mail. And I'll save it. You can see that it looks okay, but the icon is a bit small. So I need to add another class right here that says item, icon, and then left. And so what that will do is properly format the icon so it follows the size of the label over here on the right-hand side. So let's do another one. This item 2, I'm going to also add an icon to this. So I'm just going to copy this one and paste it here. I'm actually going to paste it twice because I'm going to show you how you do 2 icons. So what you could do is create an icon on the left by using the item icon left, and then create an icon on the right by using the item icon right class. So if I save that, you'll see that you have the icon positions both on the left and right. And let's go ahead and change the labels here. So I will make this one ion chat bubble working, sort of like a bubble. And then I'm going to use just the ionic icon here, which looks like this little circle, just to show you that they look different. You can also add a note to any element. So if you have sort of, let's go ahead and do this item 3 here. And we'll again put this, actually I shouldn't have deleted that. Let's just cut that and I'll paste it in here. And for this one, I'm going to add an item icon on the left. So I want an icon and I'm going to paste one of these icons here. We'll do that one. It has like a little mic. And then you can say something like span class equals item note. That's going to give you a note style. And we'll put in the word record there. And so that puts sort of a little bit of text on the right-hand side. And this other text on the left still remains. So you can also add a badge. And it looks kind of like this item note here. So if we wanted to add a badge to one of these, we would do badge here and badge assertive, because you can add any color you want to. And then you would put probably a number, like say 3 here. Let's go ahead and clean up the formatting a little bit. And now this particular item has a badge. So you can combine these and put badges on the right-hand side and put icons on the left and all kinds of other things. It can be a button if you want to, and you would just code a button on that side. So if you wanted a button, you would have to actually do a button positive. Let's go ahead and add a button over here to item 5 so you can see that option. So I'm going to do a button, and my button is going to have a class of button assertive, right? We will put in, say, an icon in the button. So this has a button, but I haven't finished coding all this stuff. So it should be button and then button assertive. That's a little big. So in the anchor tag, we also need to add another class here that positions the button. So we would say item button right. So the combination is you not only create the element, but you also have to tell the container where any icons are or any buttons or any badges are, their positioning. And Ionic will take care of formatting that for you automatically. Now you can also, of course, add photos. And there's actually two versions of photos. There's thumbnails or avatars. Avatars are sort of a little bigger than icons, but smaller than thumbnails. So it's like icons, and then avatars are a little bigger, and they're formatted like in a circle. And then you have thumbnails, which are just a little bit bigger. So they are pretty much coded the same way. You just give them a slightly different look. So this next one, I'm going to code. I'll do an item avatar here. And all you have to do here is just do an image tag. And you just give it sort of any kind of placeholder. So you can use a site if you don't have a photo, like placehold.it, and then you can give it a number here. So I'll do 100 by 100, and this is avatar, the alt tag. And now that has like a little avatar. Sometimes you can try other websites. Like I think if you use place kitten, then you can do something like this. So sometimes that doesn't work. But there's other websites that you can use in addition to placehold it. So you would do something similar if you wanted to put a photo, and we can do this after the divider. Actually, let me move this item 8, and this should technically be like item 7, but we don't really need to reformat all that stuff. And this time we'll do a thumbnail. So it's pretty much just like an avatar. So you have to say item and then thumbnail, and then you have to say where you want to put the thumbnail. So you can say thumbnail left, and then you just include an image. I'll just steal this image again at the very top. And a thumbnail shows up just a little bigger. This text right here can be anything you want. So we can put in a headline here, and then we can add a paragraph, and I'll just type in some text there. You can see that it's automatically cropping the text and also putting these 3 dots. And that's actually pretty useful because you don't have to style that into the application. If any of these pieces of text gets too wide, it's going to put those 3 dots in the right position for you. Now, lists are a super convenient pattern when it comes to mobile applications. You see them all the time in just about every one of your mobile apps. Ionic gives you a bunch of classes that makes them look great and takes care of handling all the scrolling for you. Now, that makes building apps that use lists super easy.